Hey guys, so today I'm going to tell you a funny first date story, and as some of you may know by now, I am writing a book, and it just kind of is a compilation of a bunch of different incidences and stories, of my own stories and my friends' stories and other people's that I've gathered together, of just things that kind of happen and go on while you're a teenager and growing up, and just a lot of things that I think have really shaped me into the person that I am today, and just a lot of kind of thoughts after the incidences had happened and just kind of overall, what that kind of taught me and a lesson that it kind of brought to me. So I wanted to actually share a few of the stories with you guys. And just to kind of preface this, the guy that I'm going to be talking about, I'm obviously not going to mention his name, but there are no hard feelings there. I think he's now dating the girl that he was previously dating before we ever went out on a date. They broke up and then he asked me out. So this is not meant in any bad way towards him, and if he watches this video, I don't want him to feel upset about it, because honestly, it wasn't a bad date because anything he really did. It just was kind of a series of unfortunate events that now I think, more than anything, they're just funny. Like, it really is not, like, bad. It's kind of just really hilarious, in my own opinion, to look back on all the things that happened on this weekend, because all added up together, it honestly sounds like something out of a movie. Let me go ahead and just get right into this story. So, starting off, he was a few years older than me. I didn't know him very well, but I knew of him, so I knew he wasn't, like, I don't know, creepy or whatever weird. And I thought he was cute, and one day he had just texted me, and we just kind of had caught up, and we were just talking about life and whatever, and he had invited me to come out for the weekend to his college, because we don't go to the same school. And so he asked me if I wanted to go hang out, and he said I could come to a football game. It was a big game, and here in Texas, football is like, it's a big deal. So he was basically saying I could be his date to the game, and he's in a fraternity, so he said we would go to the game and stop at the fraternity tents and meet all of his friends and whatever. And it honestly just sounded like a fun time, so I was like, yeah, sure, that'd be great. So we kept talking probably for like 2 weeks, and then the weekend rolled around that I was supposed to go meet him. So I got in the car with my friend, and we drove up there, and we were kind of like just discussing, what was going to go on. And since I was staying for 3 days, I was like kind of trying to decide how to bring my clothes, and I also needed to bring cowgirl boots, because the football games here in Texas, everyone wears cowgirl boots, or cowboy boots if you want to call them that. So I ended up bringing like a small suitcase, which now looking back on that, it's like cringeworthy because it was so awkward, but I didn't know like what else to bring all of my stuff in. And naturally I'm kind of an overpacker, and I don't know, I just brought a suitcase, which I felt kind of silly about. And he had texted me when I was halfway there, and I'd already kind of asked like if my friend could come, and he kind of said no, which made it a little bit weird, I guess, but in hindsight I was just kind of like, okay, whatever. So she basically was going to stay in the same college town, but she was going to go hang out with some other friends that we knew there, and she knew a lot of people there, but I didn't know that many other people that also went to that school, just to kind of like preface this. So anyways, I got into town, and we'd been driving for a few hours or whatever, and he asked me to meet him at like this bar restaurant thing, and we drove up, and I noticed like there were a bunch of people there, and it was really like hopping, I guess. I think it was like a Thursday night this was or something, and I just kind of felt like, I don't know, I didn't really want to roll in a suitcase to this bar where there was all these college kids just hanging out. So I just kind of like made up a lie. I was like, I'm not going to be in town for another like 30 minutes, and he's like, oh, okay. Well, I'll probably be gone from this bar by then, so just meet me at my house. So, 30 minutes went by, whatever, we drove to his house, and I got out, and I just kind of like wheeled my suitcase up to his door, and I was really nervous, just because naturally I'm a very nervous person. I just get really like kind of uptight and scared about things. So I just like kind of knocked on the door, he opened it, and he swung the door open, and I kid you not, there were probably 12 guys, like college guys, in his house, and they were all playing beer pong, they were like hanging out, and I was the only girl. There's no other girls there, just me. And I walk in and I have a suitcase in hand, like I look so silly. I just felt really shy right off the bat, and I just like wheeled my stuff into the room that I was staying in, and I just kind of sat there for a second, and I was like, okay, well, now I know that there's a ton of guys here, and I just need to be fun and social and whatever. So, it ended up being fine, and later on, I think like 2 hours later, a few girls showed up, I guess, that were like dating some of the other guys that were there, and people were just like hanging out, talking, and someone brought up the idea that they wanted to go to a bar. And in Texas, at least in some of the college towns, there are bars that are like 18 and older, so that's how I could go. He was 21 though, so you know, we went to the bar, whatever, it was fun. Nothing like really happened there, I guess, and I don't know, like nothing really bad, nothing really good either. We hung out and I just kind of got to meet his friends. One of the guys, he lived with like 6 guys, which I figured out once I got to the house, obviously. One of the roommates in particular was a little bit odd. I couldn't really put my finger on what it was, and I thought maybe I was just kind of being a little paranoid. I don't know. He just kind of was like rubbing me the wrong way, and I just kind of got like a weird sense about him, but I kind of just brushed it off and, you know, whatever. So we got back to the house and it was kind of late, and let me just say, before this I really didn't eat anything when I was like on the road with my friends, and then once I got to his house everyone was playing beer pong, so you know, I didn't like eat any dinner, I guess, and then we went out and then we got back and it was late and I just kind of started to feel like hungry. So he like went into the other room or something, I don't know what he was doing, watching TV or something. So I got up and I started looking around in their kitchen because I was like really hungry. And it's not normally something I would do, but I just knew like if I didn't eat something I was not going to feel very well. So I was just kind of looking around for something to eat, like some bread or some crackers or chips or whatever, just something. And I ended up noticing that every single thing in their pantry was marked with like initials, and even like on the loaf of bread there was like little tally marks, and then it was like JR or whatever, like initials of each roommate, and it basically said like how much was left in each bag of the chips, or how much bread was still left in the loaf, or how much whoever had taken out of it or whatever. So I just started to kind of panic because literally every single thing in their pantry and in their kitchen was marked based on who it belonged to, how much there was, and it kind of all made sense to me because earlier in the night I had overheard some of the guys talking and they were like arguing about someone that didn't clean something up, and then someone, you know, ate someone else's food and whatever. And so I was like, oh my gosh, okay, this must be kind of a serious issue to them in this house that they live in if they're literally marking every single item in the pantry and in the fridge with like their names and little tally marks. So I ended up not eating anything. So I went to bed, and the next day we were actually going to a football game, and he had kind of worked it out to where he was getting me a ticket, and it was a game that was like really a big game, so it was kind of hard to get tickets to. And so when he had invited me out to go on this like date weekend with him and that I could go to the game with him, it was like a big deal, and I knew it was a really nice gesture that he had made to invite me to be his date for that. So the next day I woke up and I had overheard the roommate that was kind of a little bit weird. The night before, he was kind of joking about like me making him breakfast and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know, something about it just kind of made me feel awkward. So I ended up kind of like sleeping in and just kind of like taking my time, like got a shower, did my makeup, you know, put on my dress and my boots, and just kind of waited until everyone was ready to go. So we left in the morning and we went to the tailgate. Which is basically where like a bunch of people kind of hang out and people eat food and they drink and they kind of like pre-party before they actually go into the football game. Like I said, he was 21, so he was drinking, and it's kind of like a common thing, I guess, for like guys in fraternities to like drink a lot before the games. And so all of his friends were drinking, whatever, and he got kind of to the point where he had been drinking a lot, and it kind of rolled around to like 20 minutes until the game was about to start, and he was kind of like shuffling around, talking to all his friends, like saying, okay, we're gonna go in the game now. I think some of his friends had decided like not to actually go into the game. I think a few people, I don't know, they were like gonna go in at halftime or something, whatever. So basically he wanted to go in the beginning because he wanted to like see the whole game inside the stadium. So we got up to where we were going to check our actual tickets for the football game. Mind you, he had actually gotten me a ticket that was someone else's ticket, I guess, that like sat next to him. It was like some other student at that school that was like assigned a seat next to him that then like gave him their extra ticket so I could go and sit next to him, if that makes sense. It might not make any sense if you don't know like about college sports and stuff, but anyways, basically he did not like authorize the ticket as a guest ticket, so the person that name was actually on the ticket wasn't me, obviously, and there was like this big problem, and like the girl working at the ticket counter, she was being really rude, and I know he was kind of getting frustrated, and I think he was also a little bit embarrassed, so I just kind of didn't want to make it any weirder. So I basically said, I was like, you know, it's really not a big deal, like I'll stay back, it's really not a big deal, because he really wanted to go to the game. I know he did, and I, you know, whatever, football, like I didn't really care one way or another, so I was kind of just like, I promise, and he was like really worried about it, which was sweet. But so basically he was like, okay, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. And so and mind you, the game's starting very soon, so he walked me out to try to get a cab. And since the game was such a big game, it was so hard to get one, and I was getting really worried that the game was going to start while he was helping me get a cab back to his house. I was just gonna go wait, I guess, at his house. I don't know. I felt weird just like hanging around the fraternities because I didn't really know anyone else at the school. So I was just like, yeah, I'll just go back to your house and hang out, and I'll see you after the game. So he kind of agreed to that. So anyways, we were trying to get a cab, and like I said, he had been drinking, so it was like really difficult to get a cab. He was really kind of like getting frustrated at this point. I knew the game was starting soon. So I just like really told him, I was like, it's totally fine, I'll make it from here. And I had just like asked him his address so I'd get back because I didn't know it. And he told me whatever. So eventually he went into the game. I got a cab back to his house. And by the time I got to his house, mind you, this is like in September, so it was really hot outside. It was like 100 degrees. I hadn't had anything to eat for like a whole day and a half, so I wasn't feeling that great, honestly. And I get to his house and I like pull on the front door and it's locked. And so I'm like, okay. So I start like looking on the ground, look under the mat, look for a key. I'm like locked out of his house, I realize, and you know, I try to call him, it doesn't work because when you're in a stadium with so many people, the cell reception is really, really terrible. So there was no way to contact him, and I couldn't like figure out what to do. I knocked on all of like the windows and stuff, thinking that maybe some of the roommates would be home, or I don't know. Like I really was confused on what I was supposed to do because it was literally like 100 degrees. I knew the game was gonna last like 4 or 5 hours. I really didn't want to have to sit on his front porch for like 4 or 5 hours in the blazing sun by myself. So I was kind of panicking. I called my friend. She was already inside the stadium, but her phone was okay, so I asked her to try to go find him. She said she would try, but she didn't end up finding him. But she basically was like, you know, do you want me to come pick you up, like blah blah blah. But she was with a date, and like I didn't want to bother her, so I was like, no, I'll figure it out. There's like a huge fence around his house, and that's also locked, unfortunately. So I end up deciding that I'm gonna have to climb over the fence because I'm gonna try to like see if there's like a back door and stuff, and I knew there was, but I couldn't get to it without getting over this fence. So obviously I have on like a lace dress, I have my hair all done, I have cowgirl boots on, my sunglasses, a purse, and I have to climb over this fence. And I'm literally like a very not athletic person, so it was like, I don't know, it was basically that or sit literally for 5 hours in the sun on his front doorstep in a town that I don't really know anyone in, where I cannot get any cell service and whatever. So I just basically thought, okay, climbing the fence is going to be my best bet. And even if I fail, I'm here alone, so whatever. So I climb up over the fence, I like scratch my leg and whatever, I get over it, I'm kind of proud of myself. Then I start kind of pulling on the back doors, all the other doors are locked. And so then I decide to like push on the windows, and every single one's locked. And then finally, his bedroom window like comes up just a little bit. And now it's kind of far off the ground, which is kind of weird. Like their backyard kind of slanted, so like his window was like he lived on the first floor, but like his window was kind of high up. So I was like, okay, his window was open. So I kid you not, this sounds like a movie. I climbed through his window, and his window, like I guess I didn't realize this because I couldn't really see over it because it was tall. His window drops into his bed, so I like climb over, like, you know, going like hands first through the window, fall on his bed, like mess up his blinds, whatever, and I'm like, okay, I made it. Like, I'm good now. I just like basically broke into this guy's house, but whatever, it's fine. So a few hours later, he gets back. I basically say, oh, everything's fine. He said the game was so fun, whatever. And then he says he's gonna go get some food, and he asks if I want to come, but I don't want to seem like I'm being like needy or like difficult, so I'm like, no, I'm good, I'll just hang out here. So he's like, okay, I'll be right back. So I'm sitting on his bed, just like on my phone, playing around, and the roommate, that was the creepy one, he walks in, and he doesn't say anything to me. He just like walks in the room, and mind you, like there's like 6 rooms here, like 6 guys live here, I don't know. But he walks into the room, doesn't say anything. I'm sitting on the edge of the bed. He walks into the bathroom, which the edge of the bed, you can like see into the bathroom. He walks in there and like turns the shower on. And so I'm just kind of sitting there, I'm like, okay. Meanwhile, he's still like standing there, he has clothes on, and then he just starts taking off his clothes. The door is wide open to the bathroom, and I'm sitting on the edge of the bed. He doesn't say anything still to me, but like he clearly can see that I can see him like naked, standing there, getting into the shower. So I like get up and I walk into the living room, and I realize like no one else is in the house. The guy that I'm there to like be on this date with is gone, and his creepy roommate is just like showering in his in the other guy's room. So I'm just sitting on the couch, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not just gonna like sit in there while he's in the shower, like that's weird. So I'm sitting there, and like 10 minutes later, I'm just like not paying attention, and I feel like this like weight come down, and he's sitting like right next to me on the couch. all he has on is a towel, he has no shirt on, whatever, his hair's all wet, and he's just sitting right next to me, like weirdly close to me, and then he starts talking and he's just like asking me like where I grew up, asking me about like if I have any siblings, and just like random weird questions, and I'm being kind of rude at this point because I'm really uncomfortable. I always had thought from the very beginning he was being kind of weird, so I'm like just kind of, I don't know, I'm like literally like leaning away like this as he's just like dripping wet on this couch with only a towel on. And he turns, he grabs my head, like literally grabs it and kisses me. And then he just like laughs and gets up and leaves. And I'm literally sitting there and I'm like, what the heck? And I have to think for a second, like, did that really just happen? Like, did he seriously just do that? And then like I just feel really gross and I feel like violated, and it was such a weird experience. I texted my friend, I was like, okay, he just literally grabbed my head, which was the part that was so rude. Like, I don't know, thinking back on it, like that was like the creepiest part. He literally like pulled my head and like kissed me. So I texted my friend about it and I'm like, should I tell the other guy that his roommate just did this? And she's like, I don't know, like I think yeah, eventually you should tell him, but I wouldn't tell him while you're there. And I just realized like, I don't know, he got up and left, didn't say anything to me, just like laughed about it. I decided not to tell the guy that I was on the date with about it while I was there, just because I didn't want to start any problems and I don't want the guy to like say I tried to come on to him, because I totally didn't. He walked into the room I was sitting in, started taking off his clothes, got in the shower, whatever. So I didn't say anything about it. We text once I get home, whatever. I finally tell him about his roommate, and he's glad that I told him, and he kind of understands like why I didn't tell him while I was still at his house with him. No hard feelings to anyone involved, but that definitely was my most interesting date weekend that I've ever gone on. Let me know if you'd like to hear more of my dating disaster stories. I would love to share them with you, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!